My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm Cloud Hired.
I'm Cloud Hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm Cloud Hired.
So I'm Cloud Hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired. Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am Cloud Hired. Thank you, Mike and the GlowCloud team.
Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of GoCloud Careers, and I'm here today to help you build your technology career. I like to come online 1 to 2 times per week, as often as I can, and answer career questions about tech careers. I know when I began my tech career, I didn't know where to go. I got the absolute worst guidance. I got certified in 6 different things, and in the end, there wasn't a single employer that cared until I actually learned what employers cared about. And then I got some guidance, and I'll tell you, I took my first job as a senior engineer. 3 months later, I was a lead architect at the world's largest internet service provider. Less than a year later, I worked on Wall Street designing systems for the banks. And then about a year after that, I was a principal architect, and you can have the same success if you just know where to go. And that's why I come online. At this point, I've had more than 25 years in the IT space, mostly as an architect, a network architect, a cloud architect, an enterprise architect, a business architect. But I've guided people and or coached people or trained them that now work at every elite organization you can think of. From cloud providers, they work at Amazon and Google and Azure and Oracle. From a technology company, I've trained numerous people that work at, say, IBM, Cisco, Palo Alto Network, Zscalers, and many other prestigious tech companies, at Big Four consulting firms and other prestigious consulting firms like Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Capgemini, PricewaterhouseCoopers. And of course, I've trained people at big banks like JP Morgan Chase Bank, Barclays Bank, and others. So I'd love to help you, and that's why I come online 1 to 2 times per week, completely free. You can ask about your tech career that you want to get to. I will ask you your background. I will ask you your goals, what you like, what you dislike. And if I can guide you and save you years worth of mistakes, I'd be honored to do so. And that's why I'm here completely free. So bring us your questions so we can help you. I also want to tell you about some three free things we have going on for you. And I hope you attend some of them or download them. One is on Thursday this week, we're going to have a How to Become an Enterprise Architect webinar. I got to tell you, I've had so many architect roles. The enterprise architect is one of the best out there. I love it. It's fun. I've trained many people that are working as enterprise architects, and it's free. And it'll be on Zoom, so you can come, learn about that career, see if it's right for you, ask questions about any career you really want. Enterprise architect, cloud architect, network architect, AI architect, and whatever we can do, we'll do what we can to assist you, all free on this webinar. Next week, and for the week after that, I've got something for you, and it's completely free. We are going to do another round of AWS training for an AWS Solutions Architect Associate Bootcamp, but this is going to be a lot more than that. We have packed 2 weeks full of training, and in this program, we have about 45 labs for the people that are in hands-on careers. We have all the information to pass the AWS Solutions Architect Associate, A lot of the information for the AWS advanced networking and the advanced security certifications are packed in there. A lot more of the AWS training is in there for, say, AI services as well, because I want you to really understand a lot. And in addition to just the boot camp stuff, we'll get into detail about Kubernetes and how that architecture works. We'll actually talk about the various databases, the benefits organizations can expect to get from, say, a NoSQL database versus a relational database. We'll go into details about the features and functionalities of most of the major databases that are out there, so you can understand that from an architectural perspective. And, we'll do as much as we can in 2 weeks. And, of course, it's going to be free. It's going to be fun. And I hope you attend. So many people have attended and either got certified or gotten jobs after this free training. So go out there and join us. It's completely free. If you desire to become a cloud architect, I've got a document in the description of this video. It is a free ebook. Go download it. It'll talk about what cloud architects do, the skills that employers look for in cloud architects, why you can't just do a bunch of labs and become an architect, but what you need to learn and what you need to do and the way you need to present yourself. And 100% of the skills you need are in it, and it's free. So go download it. It's completely free. And at this point, bring us your tech career questions. Hi, Mike and team. I'm new to this. I'm wondering what certifications will help you advance your goal to become a cloud architect. Adam123, that's a great question. So the first thing we need to understand is, what does the cloud architect do? And then we'll talk about the purposes of the certifications, because there are some certifications I strongly recommend. And while we're at it, Adam123, is your focus to be a traditional cloud architect? Would you like to specialize in, say, cloud networking? Or would you like to specialize in, say, cloud security? Because that will change my recommendations. So where do you really want to be in your architecture career 2, 3, 4 years from now? And at some point, do you want to focus more on becoming a technical specialist? Or are you interested more long-term in an executive role, like an enterprise architect role? So let me know that. But while I'm getting there, let's talk about what a cloud architect actually does. And you're not sure at this point, so let's focus on getting you to be a generic architect. So what a cloud architect actually does, Adam123, is design systems to improve their client's business performance. We do not build it. We do not troubleshoot it. We don't configure. We design. So what goes into design, Adam123? If we really want to design an architecture that's going to improve our client's business, like we're supposed to be doing, because that's our job, we have to understand the way the client's goals are and the way the business operates. So the first thing we need to find out is, what is the vision for that business? Because if a business is going to expand, for example, they're going to need more agility in their networks and their technology. If the business is trying to lean down and get more efficient long-term and leverage technology to do it, that changes our architecture as well. Maybe the company is going to be buying another company, and that's the driver of the architecture. And now we've got a lot of networking complexity, like overlapping addressing and some routing issues to deal with, and how to remove redundant systems to give that business an economy of scale and an efficiency, while enabling, the two companies to actually work well and cultures to change. So please understand that. So when you understand that, we have to understand business, and we have to understand the client's business vision. Now, Adam123, most architectures fail. What do I mean fail? They don't provide any value for the business, and then the business says, okay, I'm leaving the cloud thing, or I'm leaving this technology, I don't want it anymore, because they've spent money and gotten nothing for it. So we need to understand the client's business and the way it operates. For example, how does the sales process occur? How does marketing occur? How is the product service? How is the product tech support? Is there a supply chain? We need to understand that. And we need to understand the future of the business, Adam123, because if we understand the future of the business and its goals and how the business operates, now we can design the best architectures that are going to provide what's called digital transformation. So, now what does that mean? It means building and leading a team of engineers and architects that are coming into your system. And you're going to build that team, and that team's going to baseline the client's technology, and you're going to build and lead an architecture team to say, okay, the current client's current technology as they stand right now won't meet their future business goals. So we need to create an architecture of technologies that are going to support that business's future goals and that organization's optimal business processes. Then what we're going to do, Adam, is we're going to document the architecture, respond to any RFIs, RFPs, RFQs that are necessary along the way. Sell this architecture to the organization, do some negotiation with key stakeholders, do some vendor management, and we go on to our next client. Why am I telling you this? Because let's talk about what's taught in the majority of the certifications. The name of a service from a marketing perspective, meaning, if we've got a virtual machine, and it could be a VMware virtual machine in the data center, or a KVM virtual machine in Linux in the data center, and now we're going to the cloud, part of certifications is learning that an EC2 instance is a virtual machine, or an Azure virtual machine is a virtual machine, or an Oracle, a virtual machine is a virtual machine. But not in Google, they decided to call their virtual machine a compute engine instance. So part of that is learning the vendor terminology. And the rest of most certifications is there to really teach you how to build the technology. So I want you to understand, in one case, we've got an architect that's doing all this system design, and in another case, we're certifying people into building the systems. So Adam, 1, 2, 3, that's why when we do solution architect training of any kind, we talk about the underlying technology. How does that virtual machine work instead of just talking about an EC2 instance? What's the enabling technology? Where's the weaknesses in this technology? Where's the security risks in this technology? How can you mitigate those security risks? We want to go into details so you guys understand it. So if you understand it, you can design it, and that's really critical to be an architect. We can't just say AWS supports MySQL or Microsoft SQL or Oracle. We need to teach you about relational databases so you know how they work and understand the features and functionality differences between these, so you know when to choose MySQL versus Oracle. I hope that makes sense. So the certifications themselves don't really teach architecture in any way, but there are certain certifications that can actually help you, and they can help you a lot. The first one is you really need a cloud provider's solution architect equivalent if you want to work as a cloud architect. And what do I mean by that? An Azure Solutions Architect Expert, a Google Professional Cloud Architect, an AWS Solutions Architect Professional, one of them. And why one? Because it's not really valid training for the architect, but it still is really good for your brand. So when you have an AWS Solutions Architect Professional, you will get interviews, and you'll get more than you can imagine if the rest of your resume is good. And interviews are wonderful. Here's what the AWS Solutions Architect Professional won't get you: the skills or the ability to ever get hired as a solutions architect or a cloud architect. So know that you need a certification like that, but it's not going to teach you architecture. But that's okay. As long as you're getting architecture training somewhere, you'll have the skills to do the job. So the next thing, Adam, 1, 2, 3, we have to go down to is the next certification. If I see certifications in 10 different people's careers, I don't hire them. So imagine you wanted to go to a doctor, you needed surgery on, let's say, your knee. And when you went to the doctor's office, what you saw was junior doctor and junior attorney, junior airplane pilot, junior flight attendant, junior dog walker, and junior something else. You'd walk in that doctor's office and say, I don't want that physician to do my surgery. Well, the same problem happens in tech. An associate certification is kind of like the junior, like almost ready for the job. Now, I know people with no certifications that have all the great skills, but from a hiring manager perspective, an associate certification means probably not ready for the job. And a professional certification says, if I interview 20 people with this professional certification, there's a good chance that one of them will know how to do the job. So keep that in the back of your mind. So I don't want you to get an AWS SysOps, an AWS DevOps, an AWS Cloud Developer, and AWS this. If you do that, you've got certifications, junior certifications in a bunch of different people's careers. Junior doctor, junior lawyer, junior pilot, junior whatever. That doesn't make you look good. But if you've got a PhD from a university, that looks a lot better than 5 associate's degrees. So get that professional certification in the cloud. Now we got to give you another certification that's going to show that you know something of architecture, or something of architectural processes, or something of architectural frameworks. So generally speaking, I like the TOGAF 10. And a reason I like the TOGAF 10 certification, it is an architecture certification. Again, it doesn't teach you how to be an architect at all, but it teaches you the process for an architecture. And TOGAF is a framework. As architects, we use a lot of frameworks. We could be designing a security architecture with a zero trust or a NIST framework, or both, or a defense in depth framework, or something like that. With an architecture, we're going to either use, say, a TOGAF framework or a Zachman framework, typically speaking, a enterprise architecture type framework. So you need to be good at that. So that's why I like the TOGAF 10. And then Adam 123, I like one more professional certification. And here's what I typically go for. If I have someone that wants to do cloud architecture from a networking perspective, I typically like the Cisco Certified Network Professional Certification. And why? Because they're going to teach you some routing in there, some switching in there, some IP address planning in there, how to scale networks. So that's going to give you some good networking if you wanted to be, say, a cloud network architect. Now, if you wanted to be a cloud security architect, I recommend the CISSP certification. And here's why. The CISSP is the security architecture certification in every step of the way. Now, it doesn't teach the business skills or those presentation skills or any of those architecture type skills that you need, but it covers all the technologies in the context of security and what they're used for. Now, I have to tell you, in my experience, Adam 123, when I get someone CISSP certified, after they've trained with us, after they have a solutions architect professional and a TOGAF 10, they get interviews, and they get a lot of interviews. And those three certifications will probably give you together, in all honesty, about 25% of the knowledge you need to be as an architect. And the rest of it is where you get architecture training on how to design systems to improve business performance. But that'll give you about a quarter of the skills, which is great. And it will give you a big brand. So then make sure you get the right training on how to put the individual pieces and parts together into an architecture, and you're there. So that will give you. But remember, as the architect, Adam, our goal is to design systems to improve our clients' business performance, which means in addition to the technical design skills that we're talking about, you still need to understand business and business operations, and so you have to be relevant to the C-suite because you'll be dealing with them. You have to know how to lead a team because as architects, we lead a team. You have to give a presentation because as architects, we give presentations nearly every day. In fact, a lot of the reasons some of the best technical people don't get hired as architects is the last phase of an architect interview at most organizations is a presentation in front of a panel, and the person lacks those presentation skills. You have to have executive presence so you can walk in and command a room. Because remember, as a cloud architect, you're going to be an advisor for a chief information officer, and you've got to be at their stature to be able to do it. It has nothing to do with your experience. It has everything to do with your training and your competency. And you'll need those design skills, network design skills, data center design skills, cloud design skills, AI design skills, and so many other things. So, keep that in the back of your mind and join us. And for, the free boot camp that we're going to do, because that'll be a good place for you to get started next week, the Solutions Architect Associate Boot Camp. And definitely join us for that. From Cloud Doctor. How do you gain practical experience in cloud architecture? All the job descriptions I see require experience. Well, let's talk about experience versus competency, and let's also talk about every job wanting experience. If you want to get a job as a receptionist at the front desk in a medical office to answer the phones, they want 3 years experience, and I'm not joking. You want to get a job at the front desk to be a receptionist at a hotel, they want 3 to 5 years of experience. You want to get an entry-level help desk job, and I don't suggest you do that, but if you do, they want 3 to 5 years experience. So what's going on here at Cloud Doctor? Employers don't care about experience. They're looking for competency. Competency, which is the ability to do the job and the ability to do it well. So I'll give you some examples, and then I'll tell you what is real experience versus what is not. Jermaine Houston was selling landscaping gear. We trained him and got him hired as an enterprise architect at SNHU. Balwinder Kerr was a stay-at-home mom. We trained her and got her hired at Microsoft. Daniel Bosu was a 20-year-old student And he came to us. The reason I mentioned him, he's so smart, he didn't even have a high school diploma. We trained him, and 9 months later, he was hired at JP Morgan Chase as a solutions architect. Really brilliant guy. Delroy Batt was an emergency medical technician. We trained him and got him a cloud security architect job at CDW. Jeffrey West was doing geospatial imaging, and we trained him, and he got his first job as a cloud solution architect at Kellyanne. Yvonne Tambo was a 24-year-old waiter in Atlanta who we trained that got hired by AWS as a solution architect. And right after he got hired, his best friend, Jordan Kittico, who he used to study with, they were both our students, got hired at AWS. Both of them have not only been hired as initially as solutions architects, they've already been promoted. So that's an example of some people. Why is he coming to my mind right now? Al Legister. This guy was really great. He and I became good friends while he was my student. Left our program, got his first solutions architect job, but it was a senior solutions architect job at Deloitte. I could give you many examples. So you have to have the knowledge. What employers want is people that can do the job and do it well, people they can trust, people with energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the job, people that are emotionally intelligent, people that are competitive and want to be the best, people that are great team players, and people that are willing to go above and beyond. So you need that, especially when it's your new job. So now understand what the architect is. So Cloud Doctor, I know you were here when I talked about what a cloud architect does. Designing systems to improve customers' business performance. This is not something that you can just do and figure out on your own. You're going to need somebody to teach you. So I'll give you the difference of jobs you can learn to do on your own and jobs you need education for. If you want to fly an airplane, you need a professional to train you. Because if you just go up in the airplane by yourself and you pull back, how are you going to land that plane? Do you know how to fly that plane? If the plane crashes, it's pretty bad. When it comes to training a physician, and architects earn more than most physicians, that physician needs to know how to be a physician, because if not, they're going to write the wrong prescription and kill somebody. Now, as an architect, we don't build anything. So it's not like you could hang out on Linux and type a bunch of commands, go to the AWS cloud and click a whole bunch of boxes and think you know how to design a system to improve business performance. You'll know how to build the system, but not design the system. So you generally need to go with somebody that can, from a business perspective, can teach you business, the challenges organizations face, the type of business processes that organizations have, the type of enterprise technology that an enterprise has. And it's not just cloud. It's going to be firewalls and IDS IPS systems and VPN concentrators. It's going to be authentication systems and key management systems and hardware key management systems. It's going to be unified communication systems, CRM systems, ERP systems. You're going to be dealing with supply chain, so it's going to be a lot of technology. And, by themselves, like they teach in a certification, it's kind of like, okay, you've got chicken. You can put salt, pepper, and oregano and cook the chicken. But they don't teach you what chicken is. They don't teach you what is salt, pepper, oregano, lemon juice, and say olive oil. I'm Greek, so I know how to cook Greek stuff. But keep that in the back of your mind. So you kind of need somebody to teach you how to put those pieces and parts together. And that's why companies want to know that you know how to do their job. So there are people that actually teach architecture. For example, with us, David Lithicum teaches our AI architecture. And I picked David because he's been an architect for 35 years. He and I are peers. I have a great degree of respect for him, and he's been working on AI for over 30 years. So when students come to our AI program, they hear from David Lithicum, and he teaches them, okay, these are the challenges business have, and let's walk through a case study, and let's design this architecture together. But they're learning, they're being guided. I teach people how to be a cloud architect, because not only did I design the cloud providers' clouds, many cloud providers' clouds, I've been working with this stuff for decades. So cloud computing is not new. The first cloud I worked on was actually in 1993. It was an ISDN cloud in 1996, a frame relay cloud, then a BGP cloud, then a VPLS cloud, and then these clouds which just had storage and compute added to it. So basically a data center versus the clouds, but I've been working with those. So you need to have somebody teach you. You need to have somebody walk through a business case and then teach you how to design it. And that's what we do. But, you're going to need somebody of that. So that's how you get practical experience. You look through you have somebody walk you through, okay, you've got an airline. The airline's biggest cost is fuel. What type of systems could you design to help that airline figure out when to buy their fuel options so they can reduce their fuel pricing? That's a tech problem. A tech problem could also be you're dealing with a retailer, and the retailer says, I need some way to increase our sales. And maybe you're coming up with a recommendation system as your architecture, and you're not going to design this yourself. It's going to take you a team of, say, 15 to 50 people, 6 months to a year. But you're going to have to learn how you approach that customer, how you look at that customer's data, assess the quality of that data, and determine, do they have enough data to basically take a client, let's say Cindy the cat walks in the store, and they've seen that Cindy the cat likes freeze-dried tuna, this kind of tuna, but not this tuna, to then suggest to Cindy the cat, hey, we've got a new kind of specialized tuna things that we think you're going to like. Because, occasionally my cat gets my credit card, or basically my wife gets my credit card and buys a ton of stuff for my cat. But you get the concept of what I'm trying to talk with. So you need to be taught how to do that. Because if you don't, and you design a system for a bank, and that system gets hacked because you didn't understand security well enough, or that system goes down and it costs $1 million a minute, that's not going to be the kind of mistakes that you can make in your architectural design. So don't ever worry about experience. Never worry about experience. Experience is relative. Competency is what matters. And people mistake this all the time. Let's say you have a 14-year-old hacker that didn't finish high school, no degrees, no certifications. And on the right side, you got a person with a PhD, a CISSP, a CISM, a CCSP that designed the architecture for the organization that just got hacked by the 14-year-old. I hire the 14-year-old. I tell my person with the PhD, I'm sorry, no thank you. A 14-year-old defeated you. And that's what I'm looking for. Excellence. And excellence is not experience. Excellence is competency. And I've hired many, many, many people with no experience in my career. I don't hire entry level, but I hire a lot of people with no experience. Meaning people that can do the job, and I don't care how many years experience they have, I care if they're good. Hope that answers your question, Cloud Doctor. Giovanni, what could you learn, deploy to enhance your networking security skills? So let's talk about both sides of it. So Giovanni, are you coming at it from a security engineering perspective? Are you coming at it from an architect perspective? Are you coming at it because I wanted to be a penetration tester and break into systems? Are you coming at it, I wanted to be defend the systems, either as an engineer or as an architect? Because each one of those three different careers needs a completely different set of training. And if you get the wrong training, it won't prepare you for what you're looking for. So that really is going to be a big help. In the meantime, I'll talk about the three options because I think you're not the only one that is curious to think about these things. So let's talk about networking versus labbing, because they're the same. Same thing for security. I'll give you one of the biggest challenges we have in cloud computing and networking and security. I have access to people in every corner of the world that know how to configure the systems and know how to build them. That's nothing for me to hire. There's a surplus of people. Do you know what I can't hire? People that understand the reason why they're doing what they're doing as opposed to they've just been told to do it. I want to make it very different, make this very clear. The knowledge you need to design a system is how the underlying technology works. The knowledge you need to just implement the system is very minimal. So if we look at the one side, we need the understanding of the tech and the business at the architect side. At the admin level, we need to know how to do it. What's the midpoint between the two is the engineering phase. And the engineering is understanding the technology, understanding how the technology works, understanding how to build that technology, and understanding how to performance tune or optimize that technology. Architects busy designing systems, they don't build. Engineers, the deepest tech expert on the team, because they know how to build it, but they also need to know, they know how it works and how to tune it, and that's why engineers are very important. Although their careers, AI is really not going to be great for engineering, even though it's great for architecture, but that's another story. So there's that. So if you're at the architect level, you need to understand internet protocol. That means you need to understand routing. It means you need to understand IP addressing. It means you need to understand the headers in, say, an IP packet. It means that you need to understand NAT and everything that it needs to be. It needs to be, meaning you need to be able to look at the sessions and the session layer things that are going on. If it's networking and security, you're going to need to understand encryption, whether it's TLS encryption or IPsec type encryption. And, you know, when it comes to security, we can encrypt in transit, we can encrypt in rest. Then you need to think about encryption of the types of storage. Now, if you're an architect, you're going to be needing to think about the organization's security policy, the weaknesses in their system, like a social engineering vulnerabilities and the training that you need to do for that. You're going to need to think of the organization's identities and access management strategy. You're going to need to be thinking of all of that as an architect perspective. So that's the architect perspective. You're going to need to understand these technologies, learn how they work together, and learn how to design them. And we'll get you there. Now, the point, and then now if you wanted to be an engineer, you still need to understand all that stuff. But you're also going to need to understand how to configure the firewalls, how to optimize the firewall rules, how to set up the IDS, IPS systems, how to set up the identity systems, how to use the organization's key management systems, and all of that. So that's where you're going to need to build, to learn it and to build it. It's harder to become an engineer than it is to become an architect. I'll tell you that right now. Because to be a good engineer, you still need to understand the technology the way an architect would, how it works, and how to build it. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And that's some of the things you need. Now, if you wanted to be on the offensive side of security, and that's why I'm giving you some basic general things in each, I'm not going into too much detail. Now you need to learn how to hack into systems. So, if you want to be a penetration tester or an ethical hacker, you need to understand how those systems work. You need to understand operating systems like Linux and have some understanding of scripting and have good knowledge on the Internet Protocol, because you're going to need to know how to hack it. You're going to have to learn about application vulnerabilities. And now you're going to learn how to use the hacking tools that you'd find in, say, Kali Linux. And if you want to be an ethical hacker, you need to go out there, get yourself a server, and start creating a bunch of virtual machines, creating some virtual networks, and then start hacking into them. And that'll give you some. And by building a virtual server, you can put protocol analyzers, often called sniffers, on there, on virtual machines, and you can look at the data and look at every packet. So see how, Giovanni, it's all three different careers? So architect, design for business needs. Engineer, learn how to performance tune, optimize, and build. And penetration tester, you're doing this. And what if you were wanted to be a security admin? That's just learning how to configure the things and less concerned about how it works. And that would be build, build, build. So every career needs something different. So Giovanni, I really want to answer your question, but please tell me your ultimate goal. Let's go to Christopher, because he's a healthcare person, and we know me and healthcare people. So hi, Christopher. I'm Mike Gibbs, if we haven't met. At one point, I was practicing internal medicine as a nurse practitioner. Prior to that, I was a nurse. And prior to that, I was a paramedic. So healthcare is very near and dear to me. You're currently being a social worker and you want to transition to a cloud architect role. You're overwhelmed by all the things you have seen online. What's my advice? My advice is to come to our free webinar, and I'll talk about the role and also download the How to Become a Cloud Architect ebook that's in this video. The good news is coming from a social worker background, you are very easy to transition into a cloud architect role. Noah Parker was the last social worker I trained as a cloud architect, and he's now working as a cloud architect. I've worked with mental health techs like Jennifer Ema, who's working as a solution architect at JP Morgan Chase. The reason it's so easy to work with healthcare people is most of the role we do as architects is communication with others. So in healthcare, and your advantage, a lot of what we were taught was therapeutic communication, which is what my wife likes to call it. I call it emotional intelligence. But in healthcare, we have to deal with people that have problems. We have to approach it with an open mind in a non-judgmental way. Now, here's the good news, Christopher. As an architect, most of the clients we go to are going to have had a previous disaster. 70% of the architecture they're designed don't work. And companies spend tens and millions and hundreds of $millions and even billions of dollars on technology that doesn't work. So when you walk in there, people tend to be very uncomfortable. And you have to go in there and talk to the organization's executives and learn how to ask the right questions. Then you've got to go out there and you've got to go build yourself a team. And you're going to go have to lead that team. And like in healthcare, where it's a multidisciplinary team, where you may have a social worker, you may have a nurse practitioner, you may have a nurse, there may be a physical therapist involved, and you got to go deal with that and manage that and coordinate that, let alone getting it paid for. As an architect, we have the same job. We've got to go build those teams of engineers, build those teams of specialty architects, build those teams of the people that will play it, and we've got to go build it. So we're in that same sort of coordination facilitation role. The key to remember as an architect is we're not a builder. So learning how to code will not teach you anything about being an architect. Learning Terraform will not teach you anything about being an architect. Learning Linux, learning Python, learning Bash shell scripting or Windows PowerShell scripting. It's a nice thing to learn, but it's not what we do as architects. Now, if someone wanted to be a cloud engineer and they didn't know that, they wouldn't be employable. But as an architect, we need to get to the problem. So I'll tell you what I used to do when I used to practice internal medicine. A patient came in, they said, Mike, I've got a problem, like I had a sore throat. I'd ask them some questions. Tell me what makes your throat better. Tell me what makes your throat worse. I'd then ask them, am I allowed, can I examine you? And they'd say, yeah. So I'd look in their ears, their nose, their throat. I'd feel their lymph nodes. I'd listen to their heart, their lungs, push on their belly. And I'd say, oh, you have pharyngitis. And I'd give them, say, amoxicillin 500 milligrams 4 times a day if they didn't have an penicillin allergy. So what I do, I got some information. I did an exam. I made a diagnosis and a plan. What does an architect do? They ask the business about their business goals, business pain points, business challenges. Then it's time for us to do an exam, so we bring in some engineers to go do the exam. Then we architects make a diagnosis, and then we create a plan. The architecture is a plan. Okay, the organization will take these pieces of technology. These technologies will integrate via this manner. These technologies will need this type of network to go from point A to point B. These technologies are maintaining this level of privacy, So because of that, we're going to need this kind of encryption. And that's the plan. So it's the same role as a medical professional has. You just need somebody to teach you the following: the network, the data center, the cloud, and the key business things that you need. So I'd recommend you following a few people. I'd recommend you follow David Linthicum. He's a good friend of mine. He's the architect of our AI architect program. He's an expert cloud architect. His last job was chief of cloud strategy at Deloitte, so think of the main architect for all the architects over at Deloitte. He puts out some great training media. We have a training program, and David also teaches for us to create cloud architects. And I've got many, many, many cloud architects that have come from healthcare, that are hired, that have come from teaching roles, that are hired, that have come from every role you can possibly think of. Everything from like a Wallace Agana, who was a sales rep, to getting hired at JP Morgan Chase, to Vladimir, who was a 24-year-old college student that got hired by North Highland. So it really doesn't matter where you're coming from. It matters that you've got the right set of skills. Even a 22-year-old Pierre Dassault, who's working on Selbet's got a solution architect job at Least Web. And I can give you example after example. So go out there and find somebody to teach you architecture. And because it's not going to be the kind of thing that's going to be easy for you to pick up. Now, I've got lots of free events for you to get an intro into some of these architectural things and some understanding of the technologies. Next week, we're going to do a 2-week free AWS Solutions Architect Associate Bootcamp, and we'll actually talk about some architectural concepts in there as opposed to just doing things. So, keep that in the back of your mind. We have a completely free ebook. I want you to get this. I want you to download this, and it's going to tell you exactly how everything that you need to learn to be a cloud architect or a solution architect. Come to our Enterprise Architect webinar on Thursday. It's free. It'll be on Zoom. You can ask us questions live. We'll cover the Cloud Architect role as well, so that's not a problem if you desire and you want to join us. Otherwise, join us at the next Cloud Architect webinar. And understand that this is the best job you will probably ever have. You will love this job. And I'll tell you, I think you're going to enjoy yourself. So hope that helps. Please feel free to ask any more questions. Sorry for going out of order. I kind of have like this, always healthcare people. We in healthcare get pushed harder than probably anybody else in the entire world. And lots of us are looking for better opportunities in life. Let's go to the next question. Hi, Mike. You are new in tech. Is going to the AWS/restart route good? So, man, I'd like to know your goals. I really would. So, your goals will determine if it is the correct level of education. So, I don't know. I will tell you it's probably not going to be enough for you, but the key is without knowing your actual goals, I don't know what else you need to learn. Do I have videos on cloud engineering? Okay, Mina. So the answer is sort of, and I'll tell you why it's a sort of answer. A couple of years ago, we had a very good, thriving cloud engineering program. We had people getting hired as cloud engineers all the time. I decided to stop selling our cloud engineering program, and here's the reason why. A lot of what cloud engineers do can be automated. Everything that a cloud architect does cannot be automated. So let's talk about the difference between an architecture career and an engineering career, and I'll tell you why we stopped selling engineering training. In the business world, every new piece of technology that comes out requires a new architecture because say you've got generative AI. Businesses want the benefits that a generative AI can bring to their business in terms of productivity, cost reduction, and many other things. So every piece of new technology creates architecture jobs. And what does an architect do? They meet with clients, they deliver presentations, they build business cases, they give presentations, they manage stakeholders, they manage vendors, they lead teams. That is all human to human work, and they sell. So the architect cannot be replaced by AI. Now, by comparison, man, what does a cloud engineer do? They build and optimize the technology. And they usually spend about half of their time building. So what does that mean? It means they write Python scripts. Guess what? I can write a Python script with ChatGPT and it's good. I can write it with Claude 3.5 and it's nearly perfect. You can program a video game in Claude 3.5 in a few minutes. And it'll do it all for you when you don't need to code. And a lot of what a cloud engineer would do would be deploying the infrastructure as code. Jump on Claude 3.5, jump on ChatGPT, and write your Terraform script, and it'll do it for you. When I need to write a Bash shell script to automate something in Linux, go to Claude 3.5 or ChatGPT, and it will do it for you. Write or want a Windows PowerShell script? Guess what? Go to one of these things, and it will do it for you. So that means organizations that have a lot of people they can automate with their technology will be reducing their number of engineers while they're still hiring architects. They'll be reducing their number of software developers. But there's still hope for people that want to be in engineering. And here's the secret for engineers that want to be engineers to be great. Instead of just learning how to build, learn deep knowledge of how the technology works. For the end people that want to stay engineers, they need to get a lot of the architect skills. Giving presentations, leading teams, learning how to sell in a pre-sales environment, learning how to get the required information, learning how to build relationships, and why. Because we're always going to need the best of the best engineers, and we're going to need engineers that can function well in a team. And engineers that have those soft skills could easily move into a pre-sales role like a sales engineer or a solution architect role at some point in the future. But the hands-on techies that know how to build everything but without knowing what it is they're actually building or why they're even building it, AI does a better job than they do. And AI is free, works 24 hours a day or nearly. Well, it's not completely free, but AI is a lot cheaper. It doesn't get sick. It doesn't need to go on vacation. It doesn't complain about its working conditions. And it doesn't need bonuses or anything. So cloud engineering is a little scary of a career. And that's why we stopped selling it about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. I didn't want to train people for a career that I didn't think had a lot of future in it because we care a lot about the outcomes. So I think cloud engineering is fine if you do what I said, become a true master at it, and really focus on a lot of those businessy skills as well. You'll be great. But that's why we don't typically produce content on cloud engineering. Not that we don't like cloud engineers. We love cloud engineers around here. Architects like me are nothing without the engineers to go and build it. And honestly, we need to collaborate with those engineers on most architectures because while we're experts on technology from a business perspective, the engineers are the best technology professionals that we have in our companies, and we collaborate with them and get their insight to everything. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Hi, Barryman. So what exactly do we teach in our Cloud Security Architect program? How to be a Cloud Security Architect. So what does that mean? Well, first, in any architect role, if we're a real architect, we have to, and I mean have to, design systems based upon our clients' needs. So what does a security architect really need to do? They need to go to their client and they need to determine what the client's security needs are and create a plan for them to adopt that. Okay, so what do I mean security needs? Well, the first thing is understanding an organization's assets. What are they protecting? Are they protecting Cindy the cat photos? Or do they have their next $2 billion blockbuster drug in the pipeline and they have the secret formula? So the organization needs to know what assets they're protecting. Assets could be lots of things. It could be intellectual property. And then after we understand that organization's assets, the next thing we always need to do as an architect is calculate the organization's risk. What are the risk factors that organization has, and what is the financial exposure in terms of quantitative and qualitative? And what do I mean by that? If we look at an organization that's got, say, a $1 billion asset, and there's a 10% risk per year that that asset will be compromised or destroyed, we can calculate that to be a $100 million exposure each year for that from a quantitative perspective. And we also would understand if that new secret special new thing were to be compromised, what kind of brand damage would that do? What would that do for the organization? And that's the qualitative numbers that we need to understand. And when we understand those numbers, that's where we're going to create our security budget from. Because bear in mind, the organization has the opportunities to, take that risk and just ignore it. They shouldn't. They could transfer the risk with insurance, or they can mitigate the risk with your cybersecurity plan. So this is why we got to do that first to know what we're going to protect, what the business case, and build a business budget for the protection, because otherwise they won't buy it because they won't see the risk. Then after that, we need to teach you, and we teach you an organization's technology. You have to understand all the organization's technology, from its virtual machines to its containers to its network, because if not, you won't know how to protect it. Then we teach you how to design architectures. And we also teach you every element that you need to go through security architecture. So what does that mean? How to assess the clients for weaknesses in their security systems, how to assess the organization's people, how to develop a training plan for the organization's people, etc. How to design their demilitarized zones, where basically their internet-facing things need to be done. How do you design an organization's identity and access management strategy? How do you address data loss prevention inside of an enterprise? How do you secure the network for the things you need to do? What number of layers of next generation firewalls do you need? How could you micro-segment your environment? Those types of things, which is what we teach in our security architect program. How to be an architect. And then, of course, we're architects, so we teach you how to present. We teach you how to communicate like an executive. We teach you how to lead the teams of people that you would need to do. We teach you how to get those requirements that we talked about. We teach you how to design the architecture. We teach you how to present the architecture. And we teach you how to sell the architecture. So bear in mind, we teach every single element of the cloud architect role. And we've got about 900 hours of training in our program to get you there, because you'll have previous classes you'll watch, previous specialty things. We also, with our cloud security architects, teach the CISSP, because that is probably the best cybersecurity certification out there. And there may be some other cybersecurity certifications we teach as well. We also are a fan of the CISM. And as a junior level intro to security, we also like the CCSP. But we provide wide, extensive security coverage and teach you how to do the role. And we've got lots of people hired as cloud security architects. Delray Bat was my first. He was working on ambulances. He was in our training for about a month. Took a cloud security engineer because somebody offered it to him. And then right after that, we finished our training program. That was while he was in our program, got hired by CDW as a cloud security. Actually, there was one person who just got a very top secret job at a government organization. I can't mention his name whatsoever. Q took our program, didn't listen to me, didn't wait to be hired as a cloud security architect, took cloud security admin role, And within a month, he was hired as a cloud security architect somewhere else because he was great. But we've got lots of great stories of people like that getting hired, Barrymon. And ask as many questions as you like. Cloud Doctor, where do you see the role of the cloud architects heading in the next 5 to 10 years? So, Cloud Doctor, I love this question because I've been one of the first architects that existed, and I've watched these roles change. We have to understand that an architect there is to design business systems to optimize performance. I have to give you the other really bad news, Cloud Doctor. 70% of architectures fail, according to McKinsey. There was a recent CIO magazine article that said that 54% of cloud architecture was at 52% were complete and total disasters. They called them abject failures. There's other data that I can't think of the study right now that showed that 70% of cloud architecture are disasters. And what does a disaster mean? A disaster means the company bought it, they spent an enormous amount of money on it, and it did nothing for them. Not that the technology doesn't work. That's easy. I can get a bunch of techies and make the technology work. But making the tech work for what it's supposed to, that's the big issue. And the initial architects, the people 25 years ago, and I was one of the initial, they were the techies techie. They were super technical. And then I noticed, watching all of a sudden, I stayed super technical, and my friends became less technical and more business, and poof, they were making an incredible amount of money. So I dropped the tech, went into the business, and then poof. And then I started getting promoted and promoted and promoted and promoted. And what you see is, and you see the progression in the architecture careers, the architect has become more business, more business, more business, more business, more business, more business, and more executive. And organizations have heavily separated, at least organizations that value technology, their architecture teams and their engineering teams, because they're so different. And they've made the engineers more technical, and they use engineers now contribute to system design. And the architects focus on more businessy things. How do we deliver that return on investment? How does this technology optimize the business? How does this technology optimize the user experience? So more and more businessy. And you can see the difference when you look at an architect that's got business acumen in their salary versus people that are focused on the tech. So I see much more of the same. Now, Cloud Doctor, a lot of other things have changed. When I started, you have to look at the industry. And why did we used to be super techy, and why do we not need to be today? When I started working, the routers had a 25 megahertz CPU in them and 16 megabytes of DRAM. What's that mean? It means we had to take a way to literally tune the number of routes that were in the routing table and optimize it, because if the CPU hit 100%, it would do it all the time. The system would crash. And there'd be no network, which meant nothing would work. The programmers in those days had to work, when I was younger, with a 20 megahertz CPU and a megabyte of RAM. And imagine working within those constraints. Imagine all the stuff that didn't work, and imagine how technical you needed to be to design things. But the technology has gotten better and better and simpler and simpler and simpler. I have a workstation that I use in my house that has 64 cores that are operating at 4 gigahertz each. And the thing's got a half a terabyte of DRAM in it. When I was younger, that was a data center. So, the technology, and this thing is reliable as you can imagine. The networks are reliable now. The security is more reliable now. The data centers are more reliable now. The clouds are more reliable now. And when things work the way they're designed, if they're designed properly, we need people that are better at system design to go focus on deriving business value from the tech as opposed to just the tech. So, that was an incredible question you asked there, and that's why I think it's a great system. Set of questions. What is the process of design, present, and sell? Is this a single person that does this? Okay, so I love the way you actually asked that question. And the reason I know where you got that question from is, it literally comes from, what's the word I'm looking for? My acronyms of the architect, design, present, and sell. So what goes into that? Well, let's walk you through the steps. I find a new client, right? And they come to me and they say, Mike, I need an architecture for this business purpose, for this goal that we have. And then I say, okay, if I can, I go to the client's executives. If not, I usually start at the CIO. But the CIO is an executive. But if I can start at executives above the CIO, I will, but usually it's the CIO. And I will work with the chief information officer to find the vision for that organization's business, because they work with the CEO every day. I need to know where that company wants to take that business 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and even 20 years from now. Because if I don't know this, I can't design a system that's going to meet their needs for their business. You were going to plan the roads for the city. You need to know what that city's population is going to expand to. Same job. So next, I need to learn how that organization operates. And do they want it to operate in the future the way they wanted it to operate today? Well, maybe not. Here's the way healthcare used to work, and here's another reason why I'm a fan of why you've got to do this. Healthcare used to work. A patient would come in. I'd examine the patient. I'd write something called the SOAP note, subjective. Tyrone came in today complaining of a headache. Objective, normal vital signs, head normal. Plan, schedule a CAT scan of the head. Diagnosis headache. I mean, that's what we used to do. And then the tech came in, and instead of having something that I could do in a minute, there was a bunch of checkoff lists and things, and now it took me 15 minutes to go see a patient. Well, hospitals have been losing money ever since. And healthcare medical errors have been going up from the from the fifth leading cause of death to the third, because nobody understood how that organization worked. So it's going to be critical for us to understand the organization's business processes and what they want it to work like in the future. Next, when we understand that, we have to bring in a team of people to assess the organization's needs. And in order to assess the organization's needs, then we need to understand what they have, and is it working for their needs, or do they need to make changes? So we're going to need to bring in people, and we'll be bringing in big data people and AI people and networking people and data center people and cloud people, application people, security people, even voice and video specialists in some cases. And we'll have them examine the organization's technology. Then we'll go work with them to design a new solution for that organization. Then, together with that team, we will document that solution. We'll respond to any RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, requests for information, requests for a proposal, or request for RFQ, request for quote or pricing. Then when we go back to there, we're going to go present this to the client again. We're going to be selling it. We're going to be negotiating potentially with that organization along with our sales reps. And then when that's done, for the most part, we go off into a new client. So, that's the process, typically speaking, of design, present, and sell. I'll tell you that in most of the architectures that I've worked on, it takes a team of 15 to 50 people between 6 and 12 months to go through that process. And that's quick. Sometimes it takes 18 months or even 2 years, but it's not a single thing. Architecture is a team sport. It is a sport to go out there and design systems, and these are comprehensive systems. And, Cloud Doctor, if you were the person that's going to pay, $200 million for the system, which would you want to hear from me? I am Mike Gibbs. I'm an expert cloud architect with 25 years experience. I've spent the last 6 months creating this design for you. Would you like to hear that? And that's an ideal situation. Or would you want to hear this? Well, Cloud Doctor, here's what happened. After we understood your business requirements and your business goals and your needs, I brought in a team of experts. I brought in some network architects. One used to work for Juniper Networks, another was from Cisco. I brought in some cybersecurity people, some great cybersecurity architects, some penetration testers to really get their perspective on different sides of the world. I brought in an AI architect and a data scientist and a big data architect to kind of look at your data and what they could actually do. I brought in a team of DevOps engineers to think about automation, and I also brought in a team of this number of professionals. Together, the team had 600 years of technology experience, and they've deployed these systems for Company A, Company B, Company C, Company D, and Company E as references here, which sounds better. So I kind of hope that makes sense. That's why all real architectures are going to take a team. They're going to take a team because that's what it's going to take to deliver value for our clients. We can't just design tech. If it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do for the business. We're done. Our name is destroyed. We have one name, and it's the way we treat our clients and the results that our clients get that determine how far we go. So If anybody's got some questions, please feel free to ask them. I don't have a lot of time left. I really don't. But I'll stay if somebody asks an extra question or two or 3 or 4. I'm happy to do it. I really want to help those that are in need. On Thursday, we have a webinar on how to become an enterprise architect. If anybody's interested, please join us. Starting next week, and for the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing a free AWS Solutions Architect Associate Bootcamp. And we won't just cover the Solutions Architect Associate. We will cover that, plus much of the key components of the AWS Advanced Networking, because the cloud is just somebody else's network in a data center. We will get into many of the concepts in the AWS Security Advanced, or whatever they call it, certification. We will also talk about Kubernetes in some degree of detail in there. We will talk about the databases and why you would use certain databases and their features and functionalities in this. So it's going to be a good chance, and it's all completely free. So join us, sign up. My team will put that link in the description below, and the chat box, and it's in the description of this video. And of course, we've got a doc, and if you want to get your first cloud architect job, it'll tell you everything you need to, all the skills that you need. And in most cases, most people don't get hired as an architect because they have the wrong skills. They worked hard, real hard, but they learned skills for engineering versus architecture, and it's a different job. So any last questions, let me know. Otherwise, I have a pretty busy day. Cloud Doctor. You always hear me say business acumen, communication skills, presentation skills. Where can one learn these? Well, there's several places you can learn them. I actually teach every one of them, and it's not just me. I have 3 MBAs, I have 2 PhD business school professors, and some C-suite experts and some executives that come in and teach this to my students. So, my students get it from me. I didn't have access to this. So what I did is I went and got an MBA to learn business acumen. And I also, had some training coaches that weren't cheap. As far as communication skills, most of where I learned mine was honestly in healthcare. Healthcare people have to learn communication skills, so I had extensive training learning how to practice internal medicine. But I also took many communication skills classes, many of them. And when I talk, saying many of them, we're probably talking about $25,000 worth of communication skills training that were taught by organizations. I had gone to speech courses, executive presence, executive coaches. Presentation skills, again, I probably have $15,000, $20,000 of presentation skills training. And that's how I learned them. Jerry Weissman was a great presentation coach. In San Francisco, there was an organization called Speakeasy that provides great training. So you could get it from those types of organizations, or you could take our program. And our program's about I'd say 2 days pay for our average graduate versus salary versus, these training programs, which are expensive. But whatever you do, just get these skills. It doesn't have to be from me, but get them. But get them from somebody that's been there and been successful. And that's the secret when you're going to take training, when you're going to take a course. Who's teaching it? If you want to learn martial arts and the martial arts coach is great, it's there. You want to be the world's greatest gymnast, look at the coaches that are out there. There was Chow, who trained Shawn Johnson, for example, who was an expert. There is Nastya Lukin's father, Vladimir Lukin. He's trained multiple Olympic gold medalists. That's where you go. So find someone that's made it to a distinguished architect, a principal architect, a director, or VP in an enterprise, like in a Fortune 100 company, and those people can really, really coach you. Okay, so any last minute questions? I'll give you 60 seconds to answer, and if not, I am going to head back to our cloud doctor. Giovanni, thank you so much for your kind words. The team behind me is absolutely wonderful, and they are everywhere. Right now, Tyrone's behind the scenes with me, and he's in Cape Town, South Africa, and I'm grateful for his support. But we've got a lot of great people, whether it's Mark, our Chief Technology Officer, who's creating videos for our students on more networking, or Alonzo, who's dealing with the hurricane right now. He finally got power back, or Chris is always doing things behind the scenes. Charles always doing things. Leo's creating and dealing with expert coaching on tech. And there's many other people behind the scenes that I'm very proud of and very grateful to. Okay, well, I didn't see any other questions. So if you've enjoyed this video, maybe give it a like. Please get the ebook on how to become a cloud architect. please sign up for the free AWS Solutions Architecture. It's going to take us 2 weeks to cover it. So it's going to be a lot, fairly comprehensive. And hope to see many of you in the How to Become an Enterprise Architect